All right, so today we are talking about this little guy, the Sony a6000, a super cool little camera that I absolutely love. I'm so glad that I own it, and it's a joy to go out and shoot with. And it's just a camera that is a classic Sony camera that's been around for so long. So many people got their start in the photography or videography or Sony or mirrorless or whatever with the a6000. And it's just been such a cool camera. I really enjoy owning it. And I know going into 2021, there's still a ton of people who are considering picking up this camera, but because it is getting a little bit up there in age, it's been out for 7 years, which, well, let's be honest, let's face it, in terms of tech and camera gear, 7 years is basically forever ago. And so people are wondering, is it still worth picking up in 2021? Is it still worth buying? And the short answer to that question, in my opinion, is for the right person and the right needs and the right expectations, I would say yeah, absolutely, 100%, hell yes. The a6000 is still a fantastic camera with plenty of features that I think most people will still enjoy going into 2021. But let's talk more about those reasons right now. All right, so first of all, I think one of the reasons why the a6000 is still a great buy even today is because I think when it came out in 2014 or whatever, I honestly believe that the a6000 was a camera that was well ahead of its time. And a large part of that is due to Sony, and I really give them credit for this, and that's one of the things I really like about Sony is that they really tend to pack as many features as they can into their cameras. And this was especially true like 5, 6, 7 years ago when the a6000 first came out. And because they did that, it's really helped the a6000 age really, really well. As it's come into 2019, 2020, and even into 2021, I think because it still has so many features, it's still a relevant camera even today. And so when we're talking about features, probably the biggest feature of the a6000 in general is the fact that it's a mirrorless camera, which, okay, I get it, no duh, right? But, maybe it doesn't even sound like a big deal, right? Because like most cameras in the last year or two have been mirrorless cameras, and we expect most cameras coming out in 2021 and beyond will be mirrorless cameras. But again, I mean, that's kind of the point, right? Like, this camera came out 7 years ago, and it was a mirrorless camera back then. And, back then, in 2014, mirrorless cameras, if you've been around photography long enough, you'll remember, right? Mirrorless cameras were kind of the black sheep of the photography community, right? They were toys, they were novelties. That's what people thought of them. People thought that Sony, even as a camera manufacturer, professional camera manufacturer, was a fad. And they thought that mirrorless and Sony and all this stuff was gonna fade away in a couple of years, and that DSLRs were still gonna reign supreme and be the pro choice and be the future of photography. And, maybe it seems ridiculous now looking back at that, but with hindsight, now knowing where things have gone into 2020 and then obviously into the future, that's really helped the a6000 still feel relevant and fresh, because a lot of other cameras that were released at the same time were DSLRs, and those cameras haven't aged nearly as well as the a6000, really for that one feature alone. And so the great thing about it being a mirrorless camera is you get all the benefits that go along with that. The biggest one being the EVF, right? That's really kind of the biggest point of a mirrorless camera, is having that EVF and that what you see is what you get viewfinder, and being able to customize that viewfinder with things like a histogram, which is really great. And the a6000 does all of that. And it's a great feature that people are looking for today when they're going out shopping for cameras. And again, the a6000, it offers you that if that's what you're looking for. So I think that's super cool. And then some other features that go along with being a mirrorless camera is an amazing autofocus system. I think even by today's standards, it's still a really, really good system. It's obviously been superseded by some newer versions from Sony, but if you actually go out and you use it, and I use this camera on a daily, maybe not daily, but certainly on a weekly basis. And in my opinion, the autofocus system in the a6000 still works really, really good in pretty much most scenarios I use it in. And you get something like 197 autofocus points. You get face detect AF still in AF continuous. You even get a version of eye detect AF. Now granted, it's an older version of it. It's more akin to what you would see in like an a7 II or an a7R II or the a7 III when it was originally released, where the AF or the eye detect AF, it only works when you're shooting in AF single mode, and you do have to assign a separate button and you have to turn it on. But still, if you're gonna pick up the a6000 and if you're gonna use it to photograph portraits or photograph your family or really any sort of images with people in them, it's still gonna be a great feature that you're gonna enjoy using even in 2021. So another really cool feature about the a6000 that even I didn't know about. So going into this video, I was doing a little bit more research into the camera and looking for things that maybe I didn't even know it had. And I did find one thing that was really impressive to me, and that it has lock-on AF. Now, lock-on AF is a feature that I feel like has really only started to become commonplace on cameras within the last year or two. And when I saw that the a6000 actually had a version of lock-on AF, I was really surprised. but I was also a little bit hesitant. I thought that maybe it wasn't gonna work very well, but I went out, I played with it for a couple days. I have to say, I was really surprised with how well it worked for being a 7-year-old camera. It really did a great job at latching on to whatever the subject was that I tried to get it to latch onto. It would detect it, follow it all around the frame, and even if I removed the subject from the frame and then came back onto the frame, it would reacquire it. I was really, really impressed with how well that worked for being such an old feature. And again, like, you know, lock-on AF is something that really a lot of cameras have only really from other manufacturers started to become incorporated within the last year or two. And I feel like even most photographers who have lock-on AF on their camera probably underutilize it. Really cool feature, really surprising, and really cool that the a6000 has that as well. And then again, along with mirrorless, you get, you know, no mirror. So the frames per second, 11 frames per second. That's really good. Yeah, that's pretty damn fast. Okay, so a few other features that the a6000 has that still keep it feeling a little bit fresh. It's got focus peaking, it's got zoom to focus assist, it's got zebras, it's got 24 megapixels. Okay, again, maybe another thing that doesn't seem like a big deal, but again, 24 megapixels is still well in line with what most cameras in the last year or two have been coming out with. And in my opinion, that 24, 25, 26 megapixel range is still kind of the sweet spot. You get plenty of resolution, but the file sizes are still really manageable. So, you know, even if you've got an older computer that's maybe not completely up to spec hardware-wise, it really still shouldn't have any issues with running Lightroom and editing those photos without too much of an issue. So again, 24 megapixels, perfectly fine for 2021, gonna be more than enough resolution for most needs. Okay, so what types of photography do I think the a6000 would be good for? Really, if you're looking to pick this thing up for landscapes, portraits, cityscape, street photography, product photography, or even just as a camera to document, you know, moments with your family, or to go take with you on vacation, go take with you on your travels, or as a daily walk around camera. I think all of those would be great, you know, roles for the a6000, and that really pretty much encompasses a lot of photography. That's what a lot of people are looking to buy a camera for. And so I think for most people, it's still gonna be a great camera going into 2021. It's gonna fit a lot of roles still really, really well. And then also the only other thing I'll say about that is I think a lot of people who are probably looking at this camera are gonna be people getting into photography for the first time or getting into videography for the first time, you know, or maybe you used to be into it, you got away from photography for a while and you're coming back into it. Whatever the case may be, if you are relatively new to photography, videography, whatever, again, I think the a6000 is gonna be a fantastic camera to get into and really start to kind of hone your chops and your skills and really kind of learn the fundamentals of photography, filmmaking, videography, whatever it is that you're looking to do. I think the a6000 is going to 100% hands down be a great camera for anybody just looking to get started in photography, videography, whatever. So again, awesome camera that I think is gonna fill a lot of roles for a lot of different people. Okay, so I briefly mentioned video. Let's talk about that a little bit more. I really honestly believe this is the one place where the a6000 maybe shows its age a little bit more than anywhere else. The a6000 will do 1080p at 60 frames per second, but that's really about it. It's not gonna do 4K. You're not gonna get 120 frames per second. You're not gonna get any picture profiles like 74, S-Log2, or anything like that. If you want that stuff, you're gonna have to go with an a6300, an a6100, something like that. But honestly, I don't think that most people even need 4K or 120 even in 2021, particularly if you're just getting started. Again, I imagine a lot of people looking at this camera are probably people looking to get started, and if you are, no shame in that. But we all like to chase specs. We want the latest and greatest. Even if we don't plan on using those specs, we want them just in case we ever eventually want to. But I've definitely been guilty of that in the past as well. But it really, I think for a lot of people, we need to slow down, take a step back, and just understand that, you know, especially if you're just getting started, you know, I think an a6000 is gonna be the better bet for a lot of people because it's gonna simplify the process of learning and creating. You've really only got a couple of options if you're gonna be creating video with it, and that is, you know, 1080p at either 24 frames per second for normal pace stuff, or 60 frames per second at 1080p if you want to do any sort of slow-mo stuff. And so when you go out and do your filming and you come back and you do your editing, it's going to speed up the process because you're not burdened with the worry of, well, should I film that with 4K, or should I have done that in 60 frames, or should I have done that on 120, or should I have done that at 90? It doesn't matter because you really don't have those options. And really, if you're looking to improve and get better at photography or filmmaking or videography, the most important thing, and to steal a line from Maddie, is learn, make, repeat. That's it. That's the most important thing. That's what's going to improve your skills and improve you as a photographer, improve you as a filmmaker, a videographer more than anything else, more than 4K, more than 120 frames per second. going out there, shooting, learning, repeating that process over and over and over again, learning from your mistakes, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, that's gonna be the best thing for you. So again, if you are just getting started, don't overly concern yourself with having the latest and greatest and the most up-to-date specs with regards to video. The a6000 is still going to be an excellent platform to go out and learn on and really hone your skills and learn those fundamentals as a videographer. And then the last thing I'll say about that is if you still don't believe me, go check out Cody and Victoria. I'm going to link to their channel down below. They're YouTubers on the platform as well. And they do a lot of travel content, a lot of adventure stuff, really cool couple. And they've got a bunch of videos on their channel that were filmed entirely in the a6000, and they're absolutely beautiful videos. And so if you're wondering if this thing can produce great content or great travel films or really good looking B-roll or whatever, go check out their videos. They've got incredible examples of what this camera can do in the right hands. Okay, so I've said a lot about what I like about this camera. Clearly I like it, I think it's a great camera, but is there anybody who I would not recommend this camera to? Maybe. So if you are going to be somebody who is doing a lot of fast-paced photography like sports or wildlife, I think this may not be the right camera for you. You may want to save a little bit more money and move into something like an a6100, an a6400, 6600. So Sony over the years has definitely improved their autofocusing system by a lot. But I really think where you're going to see the benefits of those improvements the most is going to be for fast-paced photography, where you're really trying to track something that's moving quickly across a frame. That's where you're going to see the benefits of that improved autofocus the most, in my opinion. Now, in full disclosure, I don't do sports myself. I don't do wildlife personally, so I can't really give you a direct comparison between them or really give you any sort of first-hand experience. But my gut feeling tells me that you're going to have less frustration going with something like an a6100, an a6400 over an a6000 for those specific situations. So just take that into consideration if that kind of fits what you are looking to go out and shoot. Now, the only other thing I'll say as far as who would you not recommend this camera to is anybody who's going to be going out and planning to do paid work where you really only get one opportunity to capture that moment, capture whatever is going on for that work. So weddings, engagements, anything like that where you only get one shot to do it, I do not recommend this camera, or really any camera that only has one memory card slot. And I get it. Look, I know there's gonna be people that are in the comments talking about how memory cards very rarely fail. It's like a 1 in a million. I get it, I know, but as somebody who has had a memory card fail, it is not a fun experience. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. And I personally would never go out and shoot anything where I only have one chance to get that image and capture that image with a camera that only has one memory card slot. For me personally, I would never go out and film anything or photograph anything without having that ability to write to 2 cards at the same time. So that's really as far as who I would not recommend this camera to. If you're gonna go do that sort of stuff and you wanna do work like that and it's gonna be pretty sparingly, then maybe buy the a6000 as your daily driver, the camera you learn with, you spend your most time with, and then when you have events or projects or paid gigs like that, go out and rent an a7 III, an a7R III, whatever. That might be my recommendation to you, but for the most part, for most people, I would say the a6000 is still gonna be an awesome camera. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. That's really everything I have to say about the a6000. If you've watched this far, well, first of all, thank you. But if you've watched this far, you know, obviously, I think it's a great camera, and I think for a lot of people, for a lot of different use cases, it's gonna be more than capable and have plenty of features to keep you satisfied and allow you to produce amazing photos, amazing video, great content for whatever it is you're looking to do in your life. So yeah, if you're looking for this camera, if you're considering buying it, I definitely recommend it. Go out there and look for it. Now, as far as buying new versions, again, researching this video, I realized that the a6000 and the a6300 have actually both been discontinued by Sony. Sorry, my dog's in the room right now. But they've been discontinued by Sony. You can still go online and buy a brand new a6000 with a kit lens though from Amazon, B&H, Adorama, whatever. But I have a feeling that after the holidays going into 2021, those will be discontinued as well. And if they have, sorry, my dog's making a cameo. If they have been discontinued, Kira, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm trying to film a video, I'm almost done. Okay, we'll go for a walk in a minute. So yeah, again, if you're looking for this camera brand new, again, going into 2021, it's probably, my expectation is that all of the versions of the a6000, kit lens, no kit lens, it's all gonna be discontinued going into January, February, whatever. But even if you've got to buy a used version of it, if you can find a good deal on a used version of the a6000, I still think you're gonna be happy with it. I think you're gonna get a great deal. And I think it's a great camera for a lot of people. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. If you found it useful, if you got something good out of it, definitely hit the thumbs up button. That would mean a lot to me. If you want to see more videos like this, I'm planning on putting out more content about the a6000 here shortly. I know a lot of people still have interest in this camera, so I'm gonna be putting out a few more videos here in the coming weeks. So subscribe if you want to see those. If there's anything I missed about the a6000, any questions you still have on the camera, leave those questions down in the comments below. I'll try to get to them as best as I can. And then other than that, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. So until next time, stay safe, keep shooting, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. What are you doing, little girl? You wanna go for a walk? Is that your way of telling me you wanna go for a walk? You gotta go potty? Come on, let's go potty.